For sure, it's totally different. What we have the most beautiful coral, most species of fishes, and easy dive also here in Panglao.
My name is Peter Bo. Welcome to the Radio Vagabond podcast, and I've left Manila and now I'm in the small island called Bohol. I'm going to spend 4 or 5 days here and then I'm off to the neighbor island called Cebu. But right now it's very early in the morning. It's 5:45 in the morning and I'm about to go on a small island hopping trip. 6 or 7 hours sailing from one island to the other. We're going to do a little bit of snorkeling and then I hope to see some of the very tropical, beautiful scenery that you normally only see in postcards. And that is exactly why I've decided to stay a little bit longer here in this country with more than 7,000 islands. It'll be a crime if I only got to see Manila, a slum and a farm, which is pretty much what I've seen up till now. As a faithful, loyal Survivor fan, I've seen the Survivor show in Denmark many times, and it's always been filmed in this part of the world. I've always been captivated by how beautiful it is here in this country. Beautiful white beaches, palm trees, and tropical fish you can see when you're scuba diving, which is what I have plans to do. So I have chosen 2 smaller islands a bit further south. But it's a little bit different than the pictures I've seen on TV at first sight. It's a bit worn down, dirty, and overall noisy everywhere. Charming and authentic, but yes, I am a little bit disappointed that they don't treasure and take better care of this beautiful place. I found a small place I can call home for the next 5 days. It's on my first island, Bohol. It's called Backpackers Barn, and even though I found it on Airbnb, it's actually a hostel. It's very cozy and welcoming. Small huts built in dark stained tree. The staff is really nice and very service-minded. When I'm looking for a place on Airbnb, I always add the filters Wi-Fi and washing machine. There was no washing machine, but they told me that there were some laundry service 200 meters down the road. And the Wi-Fi, well, it didn't work in my room. There was only a weak signal in the reception. But they have a way of smiling so you cannot be mad at anyone. And the name Backpackers Barn is very fitting. Because my first morning here, this is how I woke up.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning here in Bohol, Philippines. I was planning to sleep a little bit longer, but the roosters in the village, well, they've got another opinion.
But on my second morning, I'm taking my revenge on the rooster and getting up very early to do some island hopping. We're supposed to meet at 6 a.m. and I'm just walking a few kilometers there. Even though it's very early in the morning, the traffic is already quite heavy. Mostly it's mopeds and small old motorbikes. There's pretty much no one using helmet. It can look quite reckless. For example, I saw a young family at one point. The man was driving and his wife was on the back with a few-month-old infant. And she was texting.
I'm the first.
Yeah.
There's a rooster right next to where I sleep, so it wakes me up very early in the day. So.
It's 10 minutes to 6 and I'm the first one to arrive. But little by little, our small island hopping group was gathered and we walked down to the small boat where we were seated on benches along each side of the boat under a fabric roof.
America, Korea, Manila.
There was an American, a couple from Korea, a few from Manila, and one Dane. We sit and chat until the motor starts. After about 15 minutes, we arrive to a place where there are a lot of similar boats. And soon we see why. Dolphins are jumping all around us. Afterwards, we went to an island where we were able to go snorkeling, and then to a small island called Virgin Island, not to be confused with the ones in the Caribbean. This one is very small and desolated. except from the many tourists who are here. The ocean surrounding us was light blue, and I did get a taste of the survivor feel that I was looking for. About a year ago, I was back home in Denmark and in the middle of preparing myself for this journey. And one of the things that I've always dreamt of was scuba diving. I grew up with Jacques Cousteau back in the days when we only had one TV channel and tropical fish in an aquarium during the breaks instead of commercials. And when I knew that I was going to be close to some of the best diving spots in the world, the next step was obvious: to get myself a PADI scuba diving license, and so I did. Back home in Denmark. My teacher in the diving club in my hometown was called Michael, and he taught me and introduced me to the world under the surface of the sea. But after I got my open water license, I must admit that I didn't use it anymore back in the cold Danish waters, so I hadn't been scuba diving for a year. So when I got here to Bohol, I decided to refresh everything that Michael taught me. I took a refreshment dive.
Then I smell the air of the tank. Make sure don't smell oil. Whiskey, perfect.
First in front of a whiteboard, then in a swimming pool, and then in the ocean. I spent a total of 3 hours with the French diving instructor Antoine and the most wonderful French accent.
So my name is Antoine. I'm French guys.
I could sort of tell by the accent.
Yes, thank you. With the most beautiful accent in the world.
Yeah.
Sometimes a bit difficult to understand, but that's why it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Many people have told me that it's a good idea to take a refreshment course when you haven't been diving for a year, and Antoine confirmed this.
So it's recommended to do after 6 months, because finally it's like driving a car. You learn how to drive 6 months ago, and after I drove you in a big city, and finally it can be stressful for you and can be dangerous if you forgot about the basic rules.
Yeah.
So that's why if you don't dive since maybe 1 year but you have thousands of dives, it's not a big deal because you are used to. But for a beginner, it's really recommended to do refresh.
Yeah.
My first dive in the ocean was such a life-changing experience, and very, very different than the waters in Denmark.
For sure. Here we have Indonesia or Philippines, what we have the most beautiful coral, most species of fishes. So for sure it's totally different. Or where I was born in Normandy, it's totally different. Much more fish, much better visibility, and easy dive also here in Panglao.
Here the visibility is much better, and there were many corals and beautiful, colorful fish. It was like swimming in an aquarium. I'm convinced that I found both Nemo and Dory. And then I moved onwards to the other island. Well, I drove, I took a ferry, I took a very local bus where the seat was only 30 centimeters wide, and loud vendors jumped on and off the bus every time the bus stopped at a red light. Lastly, I took a moped with a sidecar down a dirt road to my next home, which turned out to be in the middle of nowhere. Let me just describe this moped with a sidecar. It's called a tricycle, and it's somewhat of a rusty thing. Next to me was a skinny Filipino on an old Yamaha moped. I remember those from my youth back in the 70s. And then there's a sidecar attached around it. It's built so that it kind of looks like a small car. It has a windshield and everything. It isn't exactly built for a Westerner in the passenger seat, so I had to bend over a little bit so I didn't bump my head onto the rusty metal rod right above my head. And that was somewhat of a trial, because we were shaking and bouncing up and down when we drove the 10 kilometers from the city of Moalboal over the small gravel roads. When I returned to Moalboal, or as they say it in the Philippines, Moalboal, I had an appointment to meet Michael.
Goddag, Michael. Tænk dig noget, der er her.
Yes, my scuba diving instructor from Denmark. He's now left Denmark forever, he say, in favor of living a life as a dive master in Southeast Asia. In the evening, while we were sitting in a restaurant, a group of loud ladyboys arrived to the place and sat down at the table next to us. I had a chat with them.
This is Nikki, 22 years of existence. I am a ladyboy, and being a ladyboy is I know people respect me for being who I am.
Why are you a ladyboy?
Why am I a ladyboy? I was born with a ladyboy, I think, because when I will tell you a story, when I was 4 years old, when I was on a daycare center, my old friends are all girls. I am the one who is male, born male. But I know that I love to be a female.
How did you know?
How did I know? At that time, when I go with my friends, I wear girly t-shirts, shorts, blouses. I put makeup on my face even I am 4 years old. Imagine. And my parents noticed me, what I'm doing, what I did.
What do your parents think about you being a ladyboy?
My parents think nothing. They support me for being who I am.
Yeah.
The day after, Michael and I and 6-7 others went scuba diving. We were on 3 dives that day, and one of them was something really special for Moalboal. We dived with millions of sardines, and it was indescribable. But let me try anyway. With a full tank on my back, we jumped in the water from a diving boat outside the coast of Moalboal by a small island called Pescador. If the island is beautiful, what awaited us beneath sea level was nothing less than spectacular. Coral reefs from another world and aquarium fish in the colors of the rainbow. We're on the seabed, but it's only around 5 meters deep. It's almost like a shelf, and then we swim to the edge, where there's a drop down as far as the eye can see. And that's far. I heard that some places around here is as deep as 500 meters. We moved down along the wall to the 18 meters that my open water scuba diving license allows me to. And on the way down, we studied the life that hides in the coral wall. And there they are, the sardines. Millions of small fish that swim like one huge organ unity that flashes when the sunlight hits them. They are everywhere, right in front of us. A huge, wavy, flashing wall. And ceiling too, because they're also above us. It was an amazing sight, which only got better. Suddenly, a blue hole forms itself in the wall of sardines, and out of the hole swims a giant sea turtle. It's almost as it's flying elegantly towards me. I lie completely still in the water and get goosebumps all over my body as it passes me so closely that I could reach out my hand and give it a small pat on the shield. Instead, I swim along it for 5 to 10 meters until it's too fast for me and disappears in front of me. While I'm there in the water and blow bubbles, I think, how on earth am I ever going to explain what an amazing experience this is? Now I've tried, but I know that my description never can compare to the real deal. It was indescribable, but at least I tried. And that is what I came here for. That was why I went to Bohol and Cebu. I've spent 19 amazing days here in the Philippines. But after being here in my own personal version of Survivor, I've now eliminated myself from this country. My name is Palapo, I'm going to Hong Kong, and I'm so looking forward to that. See ya!